Okay, so hello everyone. This is the fourth edition of my PPC candidate series. This one featuring Ivan Pack from Richmond Center, who's running for the PPC there. I'll let you introduce yourself, Ivan, sort of let people know your background and maybe why you're running for the People's Party of Canada.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ivan Pack. I'm an immigrant from Hong Kong. And I moved to Canada 23 years ago with my parents when I was still, well, younger than now. And I live in Richmond. And the reason why, I think I should start with why I got myself involved in politics first. Yeah, and it all started from last year, 2018. Yeah. And I was running for school trustee in Richmond, in the city of Richmond. And the reason I ran for school trustee is because I was opposing education policy called SOGI. SOGI policy, they were trying to bring it to Richmond. It's called Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity Policy. And I was worried about the education resources that, this policy quoted. It's called SOGI 123. Mm-hmm. It's now a very, famous term now in BC, because SOGI 123 is actually, to my belief, is a political, agenda, try to push a movement. It's not, they paint it as, respect and inclusiveness for the LGBTQ community. But what they're actually teaching in classroom, because SOGI 3 is lesson plans, it's curriculums, and they're trying to push some ideology into kids' mind. For example, the transgender, gender fluid ideology. And, Laurelyn Tyler Thompson was very advocating, in these issues. And she's actually the one wake me up about what's going on in school. My kids were in, they are in public schools. So and when I checked this policy, I think it's not protecting LGBTQ. Is somehow, I believe, my opinion is they actually segregated this group minority to the rest of us, and it doesn't give them. It does give them special treatment, special protection, privilege. For example, someone who have a different gender expression can use their they prefer preferable washroom. So
well,
for me,
you got to hold the Jessica Yaniv.
Yeah. So, and I was leading a protest in Richmond, and before came to the decision to run for school trustee, and but our school trustee, school board voted in favor. I think it was 7-1 in favor for this policy, and then I decided to run for school trustee and as an independent. And not too bad for me, and I got 8,200 votes. I need 11,000 to get in. So with limited resources, with no political entity endorsement, and I only rely on small donation from parents, from in the school district. And so after the election, and a friend of mine told me, if I want to really, step into politics, go check out this rally at Vancouver, hosted by a new party, a political party called People's Party of Canada. That's when Maxine came to Vancouver, and I went there by myself, and just in 10 minutes, and Maxine got me, because he's basically saying something I really, believe in. For example, individual freedom, personal responsibility. I came to Canada as an immigrant because I want my kids to live in a democracy country, which they have the freedom to speak their mind. Okay. And during my past election, I was in a shock, actually. How can people disagree with me? Basically smear me, attack me, harass me over the phone, and because they don't agree with me. And so when I see Maxine at the rally and trying to emphasize as a Canadian that we should be, treat everybody else equally as Canadians. I want to be a Canadian here in Canada, so people don't talk about our skin color, our cultural background, because the reason why we are here is because we all want to be a Canadian.
Yeah.
So the idea of try to unite everybody in an identity is called Canadian. And our prime minister said, no, we don't have a Canadian identity, which is absurd, because the reason why I'm here is, what is a Canadian? Sometimes I always ask my kids, we are here now, so you are Canadian, I'm Canadian. So I ask my boys, what is Canadian? And I have to explain to them, because as a Canadian, we treat everybody equally and respectfully, and we uphold the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and we have a democracy system in Canada, so you can speak your mind and you can vote for your value and belief. And this is not what we have, back in China, right? And so this is a Canadian value. This is what is a Canadian is really are. We and so that's why I joined the People's Party of Canada.
Yeah, and thanks for introducing yourself quite effectively there. And yeah, we are all Canadians, and this party, despite what as much as the mainstream media wants to portray as we're all a bunch of white nationalists, you, Ivan, to be a part of a party like that. So you did speak about like political correctness and sort of the social justice agenda to try and get certain civil protections for certain groups while ignoring certain other groups. And you saw that in BC with Jessica Yaniv, who actually targeted immigrant salons to try and get her genitalia waxed. And, that was just it was disgusting on multiple levels, and this is the political correctness that we are sort of arguing against with the People's Party of Canada. I want to sort of move towards some controversial topics. As you said, you were anti-SOGI. You are involved with People's Party of Canada, where we don't have official positions on social issues. Maybe let voters know what your sort of social positions are on various topics that might be deemed controversial. Like Laura Lynn, as you mentioned, she's got this bill that's gonna look to end late-term abortions in Canada. What is your position on Laura Lynn's bill there?
I already signed the pledge.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a pro-life, person, and so I'm against late-term. I am against abortion, in general.
Yeah.
But the Laura Lynn's private bill was based on putting up into House of Commons about abolish late-term abortion. Yeah, I am already signed it. So if you go to their website, my name is up there. And the funny thing is that only the People's Party's candidates' names are up there. Yeah, and so I want to emphasize one more, and one more thing is about C-16.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, C-16 is something I want to appeal.
Yeah.
Because it is related to the BC's SOGI policies in school. It does the same thing, on the federal level. Mm-hmm. So if I'm elected, I will appeal the C-16 in the House of Commons. And for abortion, yes, and I will support Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson on these issues, and hopefully to bring this private bill to the Parliament.
That's good to hear. And now a lot of people are going to try and paint abortion as this sort of wedge issue to make voters who are more like pro-choice on various arguments there to push them into the liberal tent. And like I personally think that abortion should be legal and safe, but also rare. And also, I don't think that there is enough justification for allowing late-term abortions at this point. There is enough technologies that exist to allow a baby to survive outside of the womb. And the ones where the life of the mother is at risk, or the baby might have not so good of a life, that's making a moral judgment on what is a good life for the baby to have. And I personally am for Laura Lynn's initiative in getting rid of late-term abortions in Canada.
I think when people talk about pro-life, vs pro-choice, I always think, I'm not the person who want to take away the choices of women, right? They have the choice, and but we have to draw a line somehow, on these abortion issues. And for me is I do not want people to use abortion as birth control.
Exactly.
Some people does, and if you go to online research, a lot of abortion was very unnecessary, or can be somehow the pregnancy can be prevented, if, at the first place. So it is not a two-side, polarized issues. Whether it's you have to agree with the pro-choice side, to not take away any kind of rights of the woman, or you have to side with the pro-life side, which respect the life of a baby no matter what, right? Yeah. So this is two extreme side, and we should always come to a middle ground to when we talk about protecting the baby's life, and at the same time respect woman's choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you there, Evan.
So it will be nice to have an open debate, a dialogue, with different people speak different, with different ideas. Yeah, but now it seems, politically it is incorrect to even bring up this discussion.
Exactly, and if we are celebrating ourselves as a society that values freedom of expression, we should be willing to debate any ideas on the floor of Parliament. And I agree with you there. So here's another sort of controversial issue. It's a little bit dated. A few weeks ago, there was billboards that went up saying, "Say no to mass migration." And a lot of people accused it as being very racist and racialist. And how would you differentiate what is mass migration versus immigration? And do you think the People's Party is against immigration?
Yeah, I was invited to a TV show just, I think, 2 weeks ago, just right after, the billboard was up and it was taken down, and it was in Chinese. Yeah. I talk about the meaning of what is mean by say no to mass immigration. I think this word doesn't really 100% represent our view, okay, because it is clear we are not up against immigration, okay, and people miss mass immigration with immigration. Mm-hmm. So when you put up a sign say no mass immigration, they have the impression, say, oh, you must be against immigration, which is wrong. And for my understanding is we want to lower the immigration numbers, because we want to focus what we have right now in Canada. I've just checked online. We have 2018, we have almost like 300,000 immigrants. Yeah. And then 2017, close to 280,000 immigrants. So for the past 3 years, we almost like have almost 1 million immigrants, into Canada. So and then no study have ever showed how these people, handle their status in how they're doing. After 3 years, 2 years, have they find a job? Have they settled down in one of those places? How they integrated into our society? No study have ever done that. And I think we should focus on doing this kind of things before we make a decision, say, hey, we want more immigrants. And for me, as an immigrant myself, I'm here because I want to be a Canadian. I'm not asking, government to assist me, to settle down or find a job for me. I have to go out there, to find a job for myself, and also make a living for my family. And this is what we should tell immigrants to do. And if some of them are not doing well, then there's a problem. So we should at least address it, talk about it, and then maybe make a decision how to get these people integrated into the society, and then come back to because I was debating in that TV show with people. Someone said, "Oh, we have a really 1.6 growth in terms of population. So if we are not bringing 300,000 immigrants a year, so our population will be shrinking, and we will end up with lack of laborers, something like that." And but the thing is, when we talk about immigrations and the number of immigrations, and there's no statistics shows we should bringing more peoples. And for me is I want to emphasizing on economy immigrants, because they bring the knowledge, they bring the everything in they can contribute to Canada. And when we talk about mass immigration, I told my friends it's about those it's about refugees, it's about those illegal border crossing from the States, and that the mainstream media is not talking about numbers anymore. And the people is from the States, right? And and the federal government just, I think it's only last week, announced they're going to spend $250 million sent to Quebec, because have to cover Quebec's costs for hosting those illegal border crossing for 2017, 2018. Yes. So this is our taxpayers' money. Yeah. And we still have more people crossing the border every single day. And how can we do about it? And we don't want to be our system, our welfare system is for Canadian, and we don't want this system to be abused by those people crossing the border, and the real refugees waiting at the refugee camp, waiting for weddings, waiting for documents and the processing those, so they can actually leave this camp and come to Canada.
Yeah, if you're coming from the United States, you're not in real danger of
exactly
any civil wars or anything like that. But they're still expecting to get our protections, and a lot of them will not. And you are right. Adding 1 million people every 3 years is adding a province of Saskatchewan to Canada every 3 years, without proper steps of implementing policies and getting workers and businesses that are helping these people integrate into our culture. And you've been an immigrant here for 23 years. Well, you're officially Canadian now, so that's and we respect you and want you to succeed. And it usually takes a little bit of time before you actually get on your feet.
And one thing I have to mention is about the one murder case here in BC. A young girl, 13 years old girl, Melissa Shen, was murdered in 2017, and the suspect is a Syria refugee who only arrived in Canada, I think, 4 months ago, before the murder took place. Mm-hmm. So when me and Laura Lynn was actually at the courthouse one day, and trying to speak about how can we have a refugee coming into our country only 4 months and then committed a murder, right? And is this question we should bring up to the public? Say, is the vetting process sufficient enough to filter those criminals getting into our country? Mm-hmm. And then she was attacked by a woman with a cup of coffee, and so it is. It comes back to the political correctness. When we talk about refugees, and then when you have a question about whether we should allow certain people to come into our country, and it is then it will be political incorrect again to criticize. It's not criticizing a group of people. It's criticizing what's happening here. It's criticizing why our government is not doing something.
We're criticizing the policy, not the people.
Yeah, it is a policy. So and I think it is the leftist, mindset to attack and smear different opinion when it comes to when those opinions are not in their favor. And so as People's Party of Canada, the reason why I love this party is we are actually encouraged by the party to speak our mind. Okay, yes, sometimes it could be a controversial topic. You will end up into a pretty hot debate from different opinions, but that's fine. This is how democracy works, and we don't have to be right, but at least we have the courage. We should have the courage to speak. And then if I'm wrong, then you can correct me, right? But if you don't allow me to speak, so how do you know I'm wrong? So
exactly. It's all about speaking what you believe in, having the courage of your convictions. And I want to thank you for running there. What would you say to those who are more conservative supporters that believe that the People's Party are just going to split the vote and cause Justin Trudeau to win another majority government?
I'm in a conservative, stronghold in Richmond Centre. We have a 3-term MP, already, for the last 12 years. And I have a lot of friends in politics who are also supporters of the Conservative Party. Yeah. And we were always getting into some kind of debate about vote splitting recently. What I told them is I no longer believe the Conservative Party uphold conservative ideas. And the reason is if a lot of videos or interviews of Andrew Scheer and shows me, and they are leaning on the right, left to pander to the left, so in order to get some more vote. That's at least that's how I see it. And they are campaigning, and I have friends who are now running for the Conservative Party. Okay, they have been silenced on a lot of social issues. For example, the SOGI issues. We have rallies, we have seminars hosting locally, and since they joined the Conservative Party, they don't show up anymore. And so it is funny for me to see those people. They say, oh, if you don't have a chance to get into power, how can you practice your belief? But for me, is if you join a party who doesn't allow you to speak freely, so how can you sure when you are in the party and you are elected and you will be freely to speak?
Yeah, no.
So
they're just going to be having to be paper pushers for whatever Andrew Scheer puts out.
Yeah, they have to toe the party line. They have to listen to their leaders, on certain issues. For example, the abortion. Andrew Scheer make it clear that he won't open the debate on abortion. And and for me is we are not just, a conservative, ideas party as a PPC, because our platform based on the conservative idea of a smaller government, less tax. And but at the same time, we are, I can say it's a political movement to wake up Canadian against political correctness, against identity politics. And so this is one thing the Conservative Party never, speak about, because they are pandering to special interest group. They are doing, pollings on, every single day, and they are doing everything to get into power. They are not doing everything for Canadian with the Canadians, what we believe. Okay, what's the value? So that's a fundamental difference between PPC and the Conservative Party. It's not just left and right, we are on the right side or whatever. No, we are trying to tell Canadian what is really going on in Canadian politics. Okay, political correctness will lead to dictatorship, will lead to socialism, communism, and a politician and a political party and politicians should really stand up against political correctness, because this is the beginning of taking away your freedom of speech. Exactly. Political correctness. And if you are not addressing that as a politician, then I have a question. I have a big question in my head. Say, oh, why this politician is not, stand up against political correctness? And we have a lot of politicians that are really, scared of political correctness. They don't speak their mind anymore.
No.
So PPC is a party who encourage people to speak their mind.
Very authentic is what we are. Yeah.
Yep. So that's the fundamental difference between the conservative. So if they say, oh, I'm not splitting just the conservative vote, I'm splitting everybody's vote. For my EDA, I have people joining from the liberal, right? Yeah. And someone came in a few months ago say he was always NDP, and he wake up to this political correctness nonsense, and he said, yeah, we can sit down together, debate about, what for support of NDP, they probably, want a bigger government, right? And they want a government to step in for a lot of things. And but he's at least he's willing to come to the debate, right? And he knows there's something wrong with this country, and we a lot of issues just because we are lack of discussion.
Exactly. Well, a lot of issues. Politics has become so polarized in certain senses that people just don't want to say what they believe in because they're afraid of offending another person. Well, the reality is most people are willing to discuss anything. It's just about taking the initiative there.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you're going to have to cut this short. You have somewhere to be fairly soon. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with your campaign?
Oh, I have a website set up. It's 3w.ivanpak.ca, IVANPAK.ca, and from there you can scan a QR code, which will lead to my Twitter account, my Facebook account, and also my WeChat account if people using WeChat. And so, there's a phone number published on my website, so people can just text me or even call me. Yeah. And I'll be happy to engage with anyone who wants to, talk to me.
Okay, well, that's good to hear, Ivan. And again, I wish we could have gone longer today, but you got somewhere to be, and we're just building a movement here. Today is the official launch of the 2019 Canadian election, and I think that the People's Party is going to surprise in many ridings, including Richmond Centre there. And
definitely,
thank you, and thanks to those of you who do watch this, and have a wonderful day, wonderful week, and see you next time.
See you. Bye-bye.